It is not easy to become solar man when we carry the moon within ourselves, the lunar ego. The double influence of the moon represented in the human being by the ego that one carries within oneself makes of us a real failure. If we do not see the urgency to devote all our existence to the work on ourselves with the intention of liberating ourselves from the lunar force, we shall end up being devoured by the moon, involuting, degenerating more and more within certain states that we could call unconscious and infraconscious. Today we shall begin our lecture talking about something disturbing, something that, even though it is cosmic, is nevertheless related with the inner self-realization of the being. I want to speak emphatically about the moon. It is convenient to know the influences of the moon and the relationship of this satellite with ourselves and with the planet Earth in general. There are two contradictory theories about the lunar satellite. One strongly affirms that the moon is a fragment of Earth thrown into space. There are several authors of pseudo-esotericism and pseudo-occultism who advocate that theory. It is affirmed that some millions of years ago, when the Condor comet came into collision with our planet, two fragments of our planet were thrown into space. Thus, there we have the two moons. People believe that we have one moon, but in reality we have two moons. The other one is so small that through the telescope it looks like a small lentil grain. It has some kilometers only and is very far from our world. It is called Lilith, and it orbits around our planet. It is the black moon. But it is not about Lilith that we are going to speak now. Tonight it is necessary to talk about this satellite that illuminates us in the night, because it is intimately related with the psychological part of each one of us. In the name of the truth, we have to tell you that our satellite is more ancient than Earth, and this was demonstrated with the tests of carbon-14. The stones carried by the astronauts were carefully examined, and that point was clarified definitively. The Oriental world affirms emphatically that the moon is the mother of the Earth. So, here we have two positions about our satellite, and we have to solve this mystery. Is it a fragment of Earth thrown into space? This is what many pseudo-esoterists and even famous esoterists affirm. Is it more ancient than the Earth? This is what the Oriental world affirms. Which of the two theses will be the correct one? The facts will have to speak for themselves. An author whose name I shall not mention, because in truth we should not criticize anybody, dares to say that the moon is a new planet, a planet that is in process of birth, in process of formation, and that absorbs the Earth, that it lives because of the Earth. However, the Orientals say that the Earth is the one that absorbs the moon. Who has the reason? Let us see the facts. The astronauts have been on the moon, you know that. Nobody denies it. Photographs were taken, and there is nothing that demonstrates that the Earth is absorbing the moon. If the moon were to be absorbing the Earth, there would exist life on the moon already. But it happens that the moon looks like a billiard ball. Extinguished volcanoes, ocean without water, sands and more sands, cobbles and more cobbles, huge rocks, and no vegetable or animal life. Thus, the facts are demonstrating that the moon is not absorbing the Earth, and that it is the Earth that absorbs the moon. The moon does not have anything else to absorb already. The Earth has a rich mineral, vegetable, animal, and human life. That is to say, it has absorbed the life from the moon. Those are the facts, and I am just showing them. If the moon would be absorbing the earth, it would have life, but it is absolutely dead. The Orientals say that it is the mother of the earth. I agree with that concept. Well, how could we know something about the moon? Something that would not be the repetition of what the Orientals and Occidentals say. Only through the Oluwestignonian sight, only with that kind of sight would it be possible. I repeat, through the Oloesteekhnonian sight. Take good notes. Olowestignonian sight, correct. That type of sight is the only one that can allow us to investigate about the moon. But what kind of sight is that? What kind of sight is the one called Olowestignonian? It is a kind of sight that does not belong to the inferior psyche. It is a kind of sight that is known as the light of the light, the flame of the flame, the intelligence of the intelligence, the truth of the truth, the hidden of the hidden. Could a person who has not eliminated the ego within himself have this kind of sight? Obviously not. Only with this kind of sight would it be possible to know something real about the moon. In the name of the truth, I have to tell you that as an initiate or bodhisattva, I had to work in past Mahamanvantaras, and as a matter of fact, I knew the ancient Earth moon. Our satellite was a world like ours, and it had rich mineral, vegetable, animal, and human life, tempestuous oceans and volcanoes in eruption, etc. All the satellites of our solar system were part of the past solar system that in esotericism is called the lunar chain. So any solar system is born, grows up, grows old, and dies, as the lunar chain did, including the moon that illuminates us at night, and that was one world among many others of the lunar chain. The time of activity is called Mahamanvantara in esotericism. The time of inactivity is called Pralaya, the cosmic night. So the moon had life and is the mother of the earth. This is something that has to be understood. When the cosmic night arrived, the lunar life penetrated into the superior dimensions of nature and cosmos, and the geological crust was left. That is to say, the oceans, little by little, drained off through evaporation, and the volcanoes extinguished their fires after the seventh race. The moon had 7 great races, but at the end of the 7th great race, the entire lunar life penetrated into the 4th dimension, much later into the 5th, after into the 6th, and finally into the 7th dimension. The physical crust was left transformed into a cadaver, and that past solar system, whose only exponents are the lunar satellites of our actual system, expired physically, but remained alive from the point of view of what is called substance. That is to say, in the last synthesis, it was transformed into something that we could call pro-matter, into something called Iliaster. This is something that invites us to reflect. Iliaster, what is the Iliaster? We would call it the proteal of our physical matter. However, this very modern term does not satisfy us either. It is substance. It is the mula prakriti of the Orientals, etc. It seems a lie, but our solar system in the last synthesis could be reduced to a seed, to an Iliaster, and that is all. Let us see a tree. A tree has been born from a germ, and within that germ lives in potency the trunk, the branches, the leaves, and the flowers. The Iliaster is the seed of any solar system. So the lunar chain was reduced to an Iliaster. In the Iliaster stayed the matter in potency, in a latent state. I have to say, in the name of truth, that through that type of sight of profound esoteric nature, it has been possible to investigate the worlds in their Iliasta, worlds that are much beyond the time, also much beyond an eternity, that are deposited in the profound space. Olus Technonian. That is the kind of sight that allows us to investigate in the Mula Prakriti, the worlds deposited in the entrails of the not manifested, waiting to become active again. How interesting is this? Well, when the dawn of the new creation, of the new Mahamanvantara, that is to say, of the new great day in which we are actually living, started, the causal logos or cause logos became active. He was the one that initiated the electrical whirl, the electrical hurricane, and then the electricity differentiated the primitive Iliaster, and once the Iliaster was differentiated, then the duality came into action. However, the Iliaster by itself is dual, is monist. It includes the Purusha and the Prakriti, that is to say, the spirit and the substance. Therefore, it is monis. The electricity of the causal logos in the dawn of the creation differentiated that Iliaster, and then appeared the Idios, in other words, the chaos, the mysterium magnum, the magnus limbus. There are two existential limbus, the magnus limbus of the macrocosm and the limbus of the microcosm. As the universe once again comes forth from the magnus limbus and awakes to a new activity in the same form, from our microcosmic limbus can appear, if one wants it, the existential superior bodies of the being. When the limbus magnus appeared as a result of the differentiation initiated by the logos cause, immediately came into activity the solar logos, the fire. It had to be in that form. The Elohim, by unfolding, transformed themselves into Father-Mother. Under the supreme creative union of she and he, of Osiris-Isis, there appeared the third, the Kabir, the fire that fecundated that magnus limbus in where it was the seed of this universe. There it was the matter contained in potency, the authentic and original protyle, the pro-matter that was waiting in potency. So the fire fecundated the limbus magnus, and then the lunar life became into activity once again. That proteal came into existence. Even the elements, the fundamental basis for the existence of the creatures, fire, air, water, and earth, have their original protyle, the Iliaster. He that could become able to manage the Iliaster of the elements will become a king of the elements of nature and cosmos. In that form emerged the elements. The fire undoubtedly crystallized into air, the air into water, and the water into earth. And then there came into existence a new world, a new solar system that emerged from the Iliaster, a new earth, daughter of the moon, daughter of the lunar spirit, a result of its original protyle, or Iliaster. If the earth was just mental during the first round, astral during the second round, etheric during the third round, and now that we are in the fourth round, it is physical. In the fifth, it will be once again etheric. In the sixth, it will be astral, and in the seventh, mental. Finally, the life will return once again to its original protyle, to its Iliaster, to the germ from which it emerged, to its authentic seed. As in a seed, in a germ, for example, in the seed of a tree, is contained in potency all the tree. In the same form, in the germ of the universe, is contained the universe. You can observe how the variety is unity. You can realize how mistaken are many pseudo-esoterists, pseudo-occultists, and scientists. when they think that the moon is a fragment of Earth thrown into space. That is a false concept. Today, that left shell, that cadaver without life, orbits around its daughter, and the Earth keeps absorbing it, absorbing all its elements, even though the moon does not have anything to absorb already. It has absorbed everything. So it is not the moon that is absorbing the Earth, it is the Earth that has absorbed the moon. The pseudo-esoterists and pseudo-occultists make a mistake when they think that the moon is a fragment of Earth thrown into space. It is necessary to investigate directly. In the name of the truth, I have to give testimony that as a bodhisattva, I lived in the ancient Earth moon, and I knew its 7 great races and its powerful civilizations. The day will come in which the shovel of the astronauts, archaeologists, and geologists will discover in the lunar subsoil vestiges of ancient cultures. And then they will realize that the moon is really much older than the Earth. Unfortunately, today, that cold cadaver irradiates death and desolation. I know a brother that had the custom to observe the moon for hours. Finally, he became blind forever. That brother is disembodied now. What a big influence the moon has over the high and low tides, because it is the mother of the earth, over the sap of the vegetables, over the cycles of illnesses, etc., etc., etc. However, it is a close friend of wizards and black magicians. Let us remember the sorceress of Thessaly, who knew the secrets of the moon. Let us remember the black tantrics of Bengal and Trans-Himalaya, who do not ignore the secrets of the moon. The adepts of the conscious circle of the solar humanity, who operate over the superior centers of the being, keep many secrets related with the submerged octave of lunar kind. When one studies the Aeneid of Virgil, the poet of Mantua, the master of the Florentine Dante Alighieri, one can remember the words of that great initiate when he talks about the Strophades Islands and the witch Selene. In the name of truth, we say that the moon is tenebrous and terribly mechanical. Unfortunately, we inherit it in the flesh, in the blood, in the bones, in the psyche, in everything, because our world Earth, with all its creatures, is the daughter of the moon. Even the world of Yesod, the Mercury or vital etheric world, contains the moon in itself. Earth and moon in Yesod are as an egg with 2 yolks. The very crystallization of the seed in the human beings, in the animals, in the plants, and in everything that exists, has been and will be, is generated by the lunar radiations. What is the mystery of a tree? Its seed, its germ. What is the mysterium of a man? His germ, his seed. In the germ is the mysterium magnum of men. If we do not work with the mysterium magnum of the human germ, we will never achieve the inner self-realization of the being. That is obvious. Undoubtedly, this universe has emerged from its original protyle. When Aries the lamb, the sacred fire, fecundated the great limbus, the magnus limbus, then life emerged. Only by the side of Aries the lamb, the fire, that can be written with these 4 letters, I-N-R-I, can one become free from the lunar forces. Otherwise, it is impossible. This moon is terribly mechanical. On one occasion, I told you that the sun has created this race in order to make an experiment. What experiment? To create man, solar man, and its creations have been few. In the epoch of Abraham, some human creations were made. In the epoch during the first 8 centuries of Christianity, there were some other human creations. in the Middle Ages a few, and now in these moments the sun is making supreme efforts in order to see if it can get some more creations. It attempts this before the arrival of Herculubus, the world that is coming, and that will produce the universal conflagration and the revolution of the Earth's axis, with the subsequent end of the Aryan race. Well, only on the side of the fire of the Logos of Aries can we become independent from the lunar mechanical forces. We have to recognize clearly that almost all human beings are in a very low level of the being. Let us think a little bit. Let us reflect a moment about ourselves. We come from a particular ray of creation. Each one of us has his particular ray of creation. And in that ray to which we belong, there are different levels of being. Some are in very low levels of being, others a bit higher. One is the level of the drunkard, and another the level of the esoterist or occultist. One is the level of the intellectual, and another the level of the emotional person. One is the level of the worthy, modest woman, and another the level of the not worthy. There are different levels of being. You, my dear brothers, through these lectures have received a lot of esoteric knowledge. We have indicated how to become independent from the lunar mechanical forces and how to attain the solar intelligence. We have said that through the fire, we can liberate ourselves from the lunar mechanical forces. I have also said that through the fire, we can become solar men. But before all, let us be sincere tonight. Do you know your own level of being, the level of the being in which you are? Are you aware that you are hypnotized, that you are asleep? Do you realize that you are identified not only with the external things, with the external world, but also that you live identified with yourselves, with your lusty thoughts, with your drunkenness, with your angers, with your greeds, with the self-importance, with the vanity, with the pride, with the mystical pride, with the self-value, etc. Have you already realized that you not only identify yourselves with the external, but also with the vanity and the pride? For example, did you triumph during the day, or did the day triumph over you? What did you do today, my dear brothers? What psychological defect did you eliminate today? Are you sure that you did not have an identification today with some morbid thought, or with some thought of greed, or with the pride, or with the insulter, or with some concern or debt, etc., etc., etc.? Are you sure about that? Did you triumph over the day, or did the day triumph over you? What did you do during the day? Did you become aware about the level of being in where you are? Did you pass to a superior level of being, or did you stay in the same level as before? Do you think that it is possible to pass to a superior level of the being if we do not eliminate a determined psychological defect? Or are you happy in the level of being in where you are now? Do not forget, I repeat, that in the ray in where we live, there are different levels of being. If we are going to be all our life in the same level of being, then what are we doing here? To each level of being, there exist determined bitterness and sufferings. That is obvious. Everybody complains about the problems of the state in where they are, of their fights. Then I ask one thing: do the brothers care for the passing to a superior level of the being? Obviously. Meanwhile, we are in the same level of being. The bitterness and adverse circumstances that we already know will have to be repeated. the same problems will have to appear again and again. Many complain, saying, "What can I do in order to get out of this problem? What can I do in order to pass to a superior level of being?" I explain to them that they have to eliminate determined defects. However, they do not want to understand. Below each one of us, there are different levels of being. Over us, there are different stairs. In the level of being in where we are, there are problems. The fights are already known for us and nothing changes. Meanwhile, we stay in the same level. The same difficulties will have to appear again and again. Do you want to change? You do not want to have the economical, political, social, spiritual, familiar, and business problems. The ones of the lust, of the hatred, of the envy, etc., etc. Do you want to be exempt of those difficulties? All you have to do is to pass to a superior level of the being. Each time that we give a step forwards to another level of the being, we become a bit more independent from the forces of that moon that is carried, as I said, in the flesh, in the blood, and in the bones, in the spirit, in the soul, in everything, because unfortunately we are sons of the moon. We have spoken about the particular characteristic psychological feature of each person. Certainly each person has his characteristic psychological feature. Some have as characteristic feature the lust, others the greed, others the hatred, etc. But the psychological feature is the sum of the typical particular features. I want to tell you, my dear brothers, that there exists a determined event and circumstance. Is a man lustful? Observe his life, and there will always be circumstances of lust accompanied with determined problems. Is he a drunkard? That is his characteristic feature. Let us observe his life. Is that other one covetous? Well, that is his characteristic feature, and around him there will be jails, economical problems, lawyers, etc., etc. To each particular psychological feature, there exists always a group of defined circumstances that are always repeated. So, if we do not know our characteristic psychological feature, we are going wrong. We need to know it if we want to pass to a superior level of the being and to eliminate the undesirable elements that form that particular characteristic psychological feature. Otherwise, how could we pass to a superior level? You want to stop suffering, but you do not do anything in order to change. You do not fight in order to pass to a superior level of the being. Then how could you change? There exists a concrete fact of life, and this one is the discontinuity among nature. All the phenomena are discontinuous, so the different levels of the being are also discontinuous. This means that through evolution, we will never achieve the perfection. The dogma of evolution is absolutely useless. I know many pseudo-esoterists and pseudo-occultists, sincere people of good heart, that are bottled up in the dogma of evolution and that wait that the time will evolve them. However, they're past thousands and millions of years and they never achieve the perfection. Why? Because they do not do anything to change the level of being. They remain always in the same stair. It is necessary to pass beyond the evolution's dogma and to follow the revolutionary path, the path of the consciousness revolution. The evolution and its twin sister, the involution, are two laws that are processed simultaneously in everything. They are the mechanical axis of nature, but they can never lead us to the liberation. They are the samsara's wheel. There is evolution in the seed that germinates, in the plant that grows up, develops branches, and bears fruits. There is involution in the tree that withers and little by little degenerates, becomes decrepit, and finally dies. There is evolution in the creature that is formed in the maternal womb, in the young man that faces life for the first time. There is involution in the ancient that becomes decrepit and finally dies. The laws of evolution and involution are just material and physical. They do not have any relation with the inner self-realization of the being. We do not deny those laws, but they are not useful to the self-realization. What we need is to be really revolutionaries, to follow the path of the consciousness revolution. How could we pass to a superior level of being if we were not revolutionaries? Let us observe the different rungs of a ladder. They are discontinuous. In the same form are the different levels of the being, discontinuous. Every level of the being belongs to a determined number of activities. When one passes to a superior level of the being, one has to jump and to leave all the activities that one used to have in the inferior level of being. It comes to my memory periods of my life about 30, 40, or 50 years ago that were transcended. Why? Because I passed to a superior level of the being, and the activities that in those times were of the maximum importance were suspended, cut, because in the superior stairs there are other activities that are completely different. In the same form, if you pass to a superior level of being, you have to leave many things that are important to you now and that belong to the level in which you are. So this flows in a jump, and this jump is revolutionary, rebellious. It is never evolutive, always revolutionary, rebellious. It is not evolutive nor involutive either. It is revolutionary. And in that form we will reach, ascending through the different levels of the being to the most elevated levels in God. God itself is intelligence, is the intelligence of the intelligence. It is not the spiritual light. It is the light of the spiritual light. It is the flame of the flame, the truth of the truth. To achieve the experience of the real demands to pass to superior levels of the being, and that only is possible through the constant revolutions. When one studies the gospel of the Christ, then one truly realizes that the Lord of perfection wants us to get the liberation. Let us see, for example, the Beatitudes. They are solar in 100%, not lunar. The Beatitudes begin teaching us the non-identification. Blessed, says the Lord of perfection. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Well, who are the poor in spirit? Have you not got the idea to think about it? A man who is identified with money, with his litigations, with his businesses, etc., is he perhaps a poor in spirit? A man who is identified with himself, who is full of images of himself, who feels great, powerful, sublime, ineffable, etc., etc. Is he perhaps a poor in spirit? It is obvious that not. He that is full of himself, that does not have a small place for God, cannot be a poor of spirit. Who could be a blessed? Let us observe the proud, for example. It is not proud just the one that has money. It is not just proud the one that belongs to a pauper family. Not only is proud the one that has a brand new car, that feels happy with it. There is another kind of proud. I want to point emphatically to the mystical proud. Some pseudo-esoterist and pseudo-occult schools say, through the law of evolution, one day we will become ineffable gods. Man is called to become a god. Of course, teachings like that only lead to the mystical proud, to the spiritual vanity, to the megalomaniac. Even if man would be very perfect, as a matter of fact, even if he becomes a bodhisattva, he is not more than that, a man. God is the Father that is in secret, and only He is perfect. The Father can take the man if he is perfect, if he is a bodhisattva, to put him in his mind, in his heart, or to make him to work out of himself in some place. But if that jackanapes feels like a god, he is a megalomaniac of the worst kind. We the men are men, and nothing more than that. God is God, but we the men are men. He that feels very wise because he has some pseudo-esoteric and pseudo-occult knowledge, and believes that he is a grand initiate, etc., has fallen in the megalomania. He is full of himself. Each one of us is not more than a mere worm of the mud of earth. And when I say this, I begin by myself. God is God, we are not gods. We are just simple worms on the mud of the earth, and it would be absurd to believe ourselves to be gods or wise men. So as a matter of fact, my dear friends, you are full of yourselves. To have false images and fantasies of ourselves means that we are not poor of spirit. When one recognizes one's own lack of value and inner misery, when one does not feel so sublime and wise, when one comprehends that one is a sinner like everybody, then one is not so full of oneself and will be a blessed. But what does to be blessed mean? Many think that they will be blessed the day of the death, when they will go to enjoy the celestial happiness of the small angels. No, that is a false concept. Blessed means happiness, inferential peace.